Hey guys, it's Agnes. It is just put on my jeans after they've been through the wash, Agnes. So just, forgive me while please hold while I get situated. If you could, okay. Oh, there we go. Okay, if I just don't bend too much, then it's fine. Don't worry about me, okay? They loosen up after a little while. They're like serious denim, not play denim, and they get really stiff after they've been washed. Okay, perfect. I'm here, Bunty's here, and we are here to talk about something really serious. And guys, this time I've got notes, okay? I've got notes. This is possibly the most professional I will ever get. I mean, I still don't have a teleprompter. I still haven't done a script or anything like that. Did you guys know that YouTubers do that? Did you know? I'd rather just come on here and really beat around the bush and do a very long video that could have been half the time. That's what I would rather do. And then without really much editing whatsoever, just ship it. That's what I'd rather do. And we're 1 minute into the video and I haven't even told you about the topic. It's my style, you know? So I have actually made notes. I've got a list on my phone that I will be consulting. We are here to talk about, oh my God, look at this butt. Angel. We are here to talk about the best thing, in my opinion, my personal and professional opinion, the best thing that you could possibly do to support your mental health. I'm so sorry, she is rolling and sneezing. I don't know how much that my microphone will pick up on. Ben, get your bum off. Bunty, come here. Okay. Sorry. I'm so sorry. I completely lost my train of thought. The most important thing you could possibly do for your mental health. Work on your self-esteem. Now, I'm going to tell you just generally some points, some things that could occur in your life that having good self-esteem would make a huge difference to, or bad self-esteem. And I'm going to mix just a couple of kind of personal stories of mine when in my life I have had either low or high, either good or bad self-esteem and how it has impacted me. So one of the biggest things that I have come across, it's probably been honestly the most consistent thing I have seen in the over a decade of mental health experience I have, that no matter your circumstances, how you approach the situation determines everything. So I have seen, in the grand scheme, relatively small things impact people hugely because their self-esteem is poor. It has entirely destroyed their lives to the point where they will never recover from it. And that the thing that will have happened has been quite small. And I have seen some people go through kind of so many more challenges and so much more difficulty and so much more trauma than anybody would ever expect to kind of survive, honestly, than anyone would expect you to be able to come out of it unscathed. And they have come out of it just with incredible strength and grace. And it has been because of how they feel about themselves. I don't know if words exist for how seriously I feel about this point that I'm making. It's everything. It impacts everything. Whether you kind of see yourself generally as a survivor or whether you see yourself generally as, this word is pretty loaded, but as a victim, as someone who will not be able to cope, someone who will not be able to recover. And all of that comes down to your self-esteem. All of that comes down to the question of, how do I feel about myself? And I'm really not talking about self-love. I think that we can throw around the word love a lot when it comes to ourselves. And actually, what we should be aiming for is self-like. I'm not saying that you have to be able to look in the mirror and be like, oh, I absolutely love myself. But being able to achieve a kind of peace with yourself, being able to say, I generally like the kind of person I am or who I am. I'm just, my words slowed down because I got distracted. There's a little dog barking at my door. I might go and let her in. Haven't decided yet. And then I got anxious, I think, because the dog barked and then I wanted to do a mic check. She hasn't barked again, so I'm just going to leave her for now. Okay. And back to my point. So to elaborate on this point, I'm going to retrieve the little list I made. So I may or may not, I honestly haven't decided. You guys have heard about how busy CHRISTMESS has been for me so far. It really depends on whether I feel I have the time to do that. I had envisaged kind of making a graphic to sort of sum up some of the points I was making, but I'm really not sure. So if you're thinking at this point in the video, oh, she should have done a graphic to go along with this video, I hear you. I should have. That would have been pretty cool, but I don't know if I'm going to have time. Also, this entire point will be redundant if, in fact, you can see a graphic now because I did have time. Okay, let me just get back to the point. Okay. If you generally feel pretty good about yourself, or at least okay with yourself, which honestly, it does sound like I'm setting the bar really, really low, but there are so many people in the world who do not like themselves. So when I talk about people liking themselves, I'm not even talking about the majority of the population, not even almost close, like a pretty low, small percentage of people actually like themselves. So what I have seen, again, time and time again, is when people have good self-esteem, they will have a general sort of relaxation about the future. And that comes about because people who feel okay about themselves tend to have faith that they will be able to weather whatever storms are thrown at them. And they generally will have a kind of belief that the future is probably going to be okay. And the reason they think it's probably going to be okay is because they believe in themselves to manage whatever comes up. And this might sound like pretty basic, but the amount of people I have worked with who they do not have that belief. If you ask them about the future and you really, really dig into the future and into their concerns, generally where that thought will end is this idea that if X, Y, and Z happens, I will not cope. I will not manage that. And often my job, it's really helpful if I've been working with someone for a long period of time, because the likelihood is then that I will have watched them weather storms before. I will have watched them come out of really, really challenging situations stronger, more at peace with themselves, more resilient with better coping techniques, and healthier in their life, their relationships, their health, anything. So I will be able to say to them, well, to play devil's advocate. As your therapist, I'm usually playing devil's avocado is what I like to call it. So to play devil's avocado, I have actually seen you. I have seen you manage bigger things in worse circumstances, and you have come out of it with a huge, you have gained a huge amount as a result of coming out of it. You have come out so much stronger. So as a therapist, it's really, really helpful if I have that relationship with someone where I can reflect back and be like, well, no, actually we have been here before, or we've been somewhere worse before. So that idea that if something happens in the future, you might not be able to cope, it's terrifying. It's terrifying. And that can be the basis of a huge number of our anxieties about the future, is just that if I find myself here, I won't cope. And it's interesting because when you really, really pull apart that sentiment of I won't cope, what you were looking at is you're really kind of looking at the idea that you will die from something bad happening to you. That's what your nervous system, that's the signals that your nervous system is receiving when you're in that kind of stressful place of thinking about something terrible happening in the future. The idea is that I will kind of cease to exist. Generally, for people who have a lot of anxiety, that's where that thought ends. And it's really, really important to be aware of these things, and then to be able to dismantle them, honestly, preferably with a professional. Because I think at the point where your nervous system is in that really high alert place, and you maybe have a history of having these types of thoughts, dismantling them alone is incredibly difficult, and untangling these thoughts alone is incredibly difficult. So I would hope that if someone was doing that, they would have professional support. So feeling more relaxed about the future is certainly something that people with good self-esteem, they will be far more relaxed about the future. People with good self-esteem will be more likely to go for opportunities. So this is a, oh, I just had an intrusive thought. Just give me, please hold. Oh, and then I snorted on camera. Oh my God. And honestly, I'm still not going to edit it out. Real life, baby. Where did my head just go? More likely to go for opportunities. Okay, so this is a story of my own. I want to try and keep it to the highlights, or else this video, we're at 11 minutes already and I've only made one point. This video is going to be so long. 2020. In 2020, I had a really, really intense relationship with someone. I fell head over heels in love with them, and they savagely rejected me. I was in an incredibly bad place in myself. I, for the first time, was really struggling to see light at the end of the tunnel when it came to relationships. I was sort of in my late 20s at that point. And I mean, in my late, like, I had so much time to have kids, but I was, I guess, kind of catastrophizing quite a lot about my ability to find someone in the future that would want to have children with me. And I had really kind of, for the first time, I was starting to lose hope, honestly, in that dream of having the kind of family that I had imagined. So I found myself totally desperate. I started to see this guy. There were so many red flags. I totally avoided them, ignored them, because I was in like, I had lowered my standards because my hope was diminishing. And I lowered my standards for him. He then rejected me, and I found myself in an even worse place, as I'm sure you can imagine. Super, 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 super sad, and really, really low, feeling really terrible. I kind of knew, I could see what I had done in the past that hadn't helped, but I really didn't know how to go forward. Fast forward just a little bit, that very, very dark point, it led to a huge amount of inspiration. I realized my focus had been so much on the man, finding a man part of my situation, rather than just supporting myself and being there for myself. And basically I started to really kind of rebuild from the inside out. I wasn't focused on people, guys anymore. I wasn't focused on relationships. I will explore this more in January. I watched a number of really inspiring things, which really kind of changed, honestly, the course of my life, I would say entirely. I started to rebuild myself. So this actually all happened in quite a short period of time. I then was feeling better about myself, stronger in myself, more clear about what I wanted and what I deserved. I had rebuilt my self-esteem essentially through sort of opening my eyes up to these different things in life. And I'd kind of inspired myself and made some changes in myself that made me feel really good. In January, we're into 2021, I went back on dating apps. I took a chance with a man who I thought was too attractive for me. I went out on a date, even though he was the kind of person that I think I would have been really, really intimidated before. I would have been kind of intimidated by his open-mindedness. When I met him, he told me about all of these hobbies he had. And actually, because I had recently gotten into these new things, I actually had stuff to talk about, which really kind of matched the sort of quantity of exciting stuff I felt he had in his life. I was able to really match that for the first time in a long time. And I guess I really kind of took a chance on meeting him, and I took a chance on that relationship. And I really felt like, yeah, I think I deserve to be with someone who's this good looking. I think I deserve to be with someone who's this fun and adventurous. And now that man is my fiance. And I really think that if I hadn't gone through that period of self-improvement, that period of growth and looking inwards and being like, how can I support myself? because my focus had been so outward on getting this relationship, setting my life up so that I could have kids with someone before it was too late. Oh, it's tragic. I had so much time. But my life had been so focused on that, and actually things didn't start to change until I looked from the inside. So that's a story of when my self-esteem was really low and then was really high. And I took a chance. I was more open to an opportunity that I think I would have rejected 6 months prior, a year prior. I would have thought I wasn't good enough to be there, honestly. And so I think when our self-esteem is high, we are more open to opportunities. We are more likely to say yes to things. We're more likely to believe in our ability to do things. We're more likely to believe that we can even, I don't know, join a sports team, go for a promotion, take a chance on a relationship with someone that we maybe think is really cool. We are way more open in those areas if we're feeling good about ourselves. I just had another intrusive thought that the other part of my microphone wasn't on. Agnes. Boundaries in relationships. If we feel like we are generally an okay person, even if we feel like we are generally a pretty good person that deserves good things to happen to them, that deserves to be treated well, we will be less likely to put up with stuff that we shouldn't put up with, either in relationships or in the workplace or in any area. So we are less likely to be taken advantage of, which is huge, 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 huge. We are more likely to stick up for ourselves. We are more likely to be outspoken and to defend ourselves. We are more likely to be able to put appropriate boundaries in place. We're more willing to fail. Like right there, I just fumbled my words. If this was 3 weeks ago when I was in Denmark at the beginning of filming YouTube videos, and I was super, super concerned with everything about how I looked and sounded and was really hating the sound of my own voice and was feeling really, really insecure about my plan, I would have just like died over that kind of fumble. Now, I don't care because I have the confidence to know that actually you guys don't care. I just said, I can actually, appropriate boundaries? Appropriate. That's funny. I'm leaving it in because just now I feel really quite good about myself. So that's a little example. And I have entirely lost my train of thought. And I'm also willing to say that because I know that my worth is not in getting this perfect. So my point was that you're more willing to fail. You are absolutely more resilient when it comes to the idea of trying something and maybe not managing, or it doesn't turn out the way you wanted it to, but being able to kind of pick yourself up and say, well, that's fine. Look at all of these other areas in life that things are going well. You're more likely to see the things that are going well because you're more weighted towards the positive rather than the negative. Putting yourself out there for opportunities, absolutely. I feel like I've covered that already. Less indecisive. I think that decisive people generally have pretty good self-esteem because they kind of know, again, it's like about having that like innate belief that you will be able to support yourself down the line. So that if you make a decision and it turns out to not be quite the right thing, then it feels like that's not going to be the end of the world. It feels like that's actually going to be quite a manageable thing. I think that's probably everything I needed to make about that point. I feel like I've kind of covered stuff like along those lines already. And I don't want this to turn into a video where I'm just like ranting at you guys with an overwhelming quantity of information. More open to being vulnerable. I think that kind of confident people or people who like themselves, people who generally think that they're okay, are also far more likely to be comfortable with the idea of being vulnerable, being able to speak your mind, knowing that that is acceptable, that you are worthy of telling those around you how you feel. And I guess generally having a belief that either you will be supported by the people around you. That is certainly a privilege to be surrounded by people who are supportive of you. But knowing that even if you are not supported by the people around you, That doesn't necessarily mean that you were wrong. That doesn't necessarily say anything about you or your character. And that brings me kind of to the last point I have on this just now. This is absolutely a conversation I will revisit because it's huge. It's expansive, and I couldn't fit everything I feel about this in one video. My final point is that people who feel okay in themselves will take things less personally. So when you are feeling really, really terrible, it is pretty easy that if you have like a negative reaction from somebody, maybe somebody at work kind of doesn't speak to you as warmly as they normally would, or you maybe walk into a family situation and there's kind of a vibe, people with lower self-esteem will be far more likely to think that the negativity that they can feel is about them. They will be far more likely to go inward and be like, oh my God, is that colleague really angry with me? Is my family really angry with me? Have I done something inappropriate? Did I not do something that I should have done? How do they feel about me? Whereas a person who feels like they're generally okay will probably think, oh, weird vibe. I wonder what's happening, rather than to take it kind of really personally. I think that might be like everything I wanted to say on the topic for now. But guys, in conclusion, like I cannot stress how significant these things are. I cannot stress how significant these things are. I suppose another example that I also had relatively recently was I was talking to a client about their physical health. And I also think even things with your physical health, like it still comes down so much to like, how much do you believe in yourself? Do you believe that generally you're going to be able to manage, that generally you're a person who copes okay with things? Do you actually believe that? Or do you think that at the first sign of trouble, you're going to collapse in on yourself? Because that will make the entire difference, honestly, between how do you manage a cancer diagnosis? Really, really, that could be the difference. And I have seen it time and time again, how resilient people weather storms that people who aren't resilient will really, really, really struggle to cope with. I suppose this video has kind of just addressed why self-esteem is important and not necessarily how to garner kind of better self-esteem. And I'll address that in another video, because yawn break. Man, CHRISTMESS has got me yawning. CHRISTMESS and Christmas has me yawning. Reversing in my mind. The video will be so long. It will be so long. So I will definitely do a video soon about how to kind of address your self-esteem concerns if things in this video have resonated with you. But honestly, if everything in this video has resonated with you massively, I would really, really encourage you to seek some professional help with that. I think talking to somebody about how you respond and how you react and how you talk to yourself in your head, the narrative you have in your mind around yourself and how you kind of move through the world, it's deep and it's complicated, and it can be very, very helpful to address this alongside somebody else. But I hope that this has given you some food for thought. And yeah, that is it from Bunty and I. So as you guys know, I am pre-filming CHRISTMESS. I'm pre-filming like my life depends upon it, because I'm going into the actual Christmas kind of busy period. My house is going to be filled with people, and I've got to film a bunch of stuff in advance. So I don't know when this is going to be happening, but I'm aware that we will be coming close to the end of CHRISTMESS. And yeah, I just can't even thank you guys enough for being here. Honestly, the people who have watched every single video, every minute of my rambling, and yeah, my changing opinions when I was in Denmark, feeling really bad about myself and everything else. I so appreciate you. And thank you for being here. My God, look at this angel. Look at her. Okay, guys. It has been, oh, she thinks we're leaving. Well, we are kind of. Fun, you want to say hi? Hello. She hates this. Mwah. Okay. Bye, guys. You take good care.